Well, here's the latest project. It's a 1967 Orion Shuffle Alley game. It's kind of like a bowling game made by Williams Electronics. It says a United Orion. I've never seen that associated with the Williams, but I've also never worked on Shuffle Alley machines before. But it's kind of been in storage for a while, but it's in good restorable condition. I mean, it seems to be all there. So I've got it apart now, but it's in two pieces. This thing actually sits back up in there, and then that in there sits on some very mid-century modern looking tapered legs. Yeah, checking out the electromechanicals on this. It's see a little areas that have been repaired over the years, and it's like this whole reset mechanism was just kind of flopping around loose in here. Like, okay, but look at all this stuff. Giant electromechanical computer. But I think this is going to make a great restoration. The only thing I really noticed about it was, I think this is a reset motor for the pins. I mean, when you start a game, these pins sort of roll down like that, and when you roll the puck over these switches, they kick up. And this thing seems to have two reset motors attached to the same mechanism here. Like, out like that. And what really caught my eye about this, those windings shouldn't be rusty, so sure enough, that got hot enough to where it burned off the enamel, and either the heat or just sitting around expedited the corrosion. So that'll have to be replaced. Might be able to just replace this little induction motor. I mean, any record player from the era used something like this, but, or like a bathroom fan or something. But yeah, it's missing the top cover here, so I'll have to recreate that. And it's got some damage to the wood here, and so this entire piece is going to have to be remade. It won't be too bad. But yeah, this is all going to be completely repainted, and I'll make up some stencils and redo the artwork on this. Fortunately, I've never done artwork on an amusement device before. And some of it's pretty complex, but this actually seems pretty simple. Good starter at least, but it's interesting. You got two-tone on the other side, and you got the single tone on this side. And this back glass is in amazing condition. A few little nicks here and there, but that's it. Unfortunately, I got a little anxious and went ahead and fired up the machine for the first time without a camera on it, and it did start to come to life. And this motor, as I observed earlier, of course, those windings were definitely gone on it, and it started to go up in smoke. So the thing was all riveted together. I looked online for a replacement motor, and it looks like there was some of these available on the aftermarket for a while through the pinball parts houses, but they're no longer available, new old stock or reproduction. So that was potentially an issue. And I got to looking at the thing, and I mean, all this is just a shaded pole motor, and I thought, you know, that kind of looks like the same motor I've seen in like ventilation fans and whatnot. So I went down to Home Depot. I wasn't expecting quite this amount of luck, but I went down to Home Depot and I popped open one of the boxes, and sure enough, I mean, I don't know, that's, look at that. That is pretty darn close. I mean, even the opening right there looks, you can't really see it because of the parallax here, but it looks like the same rotor size and everything. So yes, and it was under 20 bucks. So I'm gonna try to finagle this thing back into here and see if it works. So yeah, even these bushings, I just pulled these out of the other motor, and I mean, they are basically almost a press fit, but they are, I mean, I can't believe this. Now the only problem I see is that this is slightly smaller than the opening. You know, these things are usually pretty close, like that. There's not a lot of slop there. So I don't know how much torque this motor is going to have with that much of an air gap, but we can sure give it a try. Well, 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 Mr. Tannen. Okay, well, it's actually spinning the wrong direction. It's going this way, and I checked the other motor, and it's going that way. So it'd be lovely to install this and get this out of my mouth. And have this thing going the right way, not fighting each other. So in order to do that, I've got to take this back out, flip it over. And it's not too bad because I only really kind of put one of the rivets back in, so wasn't sure if I needed to do that or not, but hey. Slightly better. Okay, well, the joy of getting this thing together lasted not but a split second, because well, I connected it and it just seemed a little sluggish, and it turns out this is actually a 50-volt rail. So the correct motor is designed to work with that 50 volts, and so this being a 120-volt, basically, fan motor, it's not right. So I don't have very many options, so what I think I'm going to try to do is to locate like just a small 1-to-2 ratio transformer, like a travel transformer or something like that, and just wire it in over on this side to step up 50 volts, basically like a 120 volt to 240 volt AC transformer. And the way I figure it is, if you've got 50 volts going into it, it's going to step it up to 100, 110 maybe if we're lucky. So that should be enough to power that back up. So yeah, see what I can find. I picked up one of these basically 1-to-2 voltage converters, 120 volt to 240 volts, and I'm hoping it's gonna work. But ooh, deluxe. So if this is a true transformer with a separate primary and secondary winding, it's really what I need. If it's a gimpy auto, buck boost auto transformer, then no, because there's no way to isolate it from the rest of the circuit. Basically, every time the motor would kick in, it would turn the whole 50 volt rail to probably 150 volts. Can't have that. Yeah, there's really no way to tell without opening it. And it is... I only see 3 wires. Unfortunate. There's one on the bottom. I doubt it. I'll be dipped. Oh, there's... what? 5 wires? Well, how does that work? I guess I could have checked this thing with a multimeter to see if the input and outputs were isolated, but it's needed to come apart anyway. Yeah. Shimrad. Let's see. Oh, fax machines. Perfect. Okay. So it looks like multiple taps. Oh, yeah, it does look like there's a common leg here. This is 240 or whatever, goes right over to this, and then this gets stepped down to this. What are all these extra? Okay, so this is the auto former side, basically. Oh, that sucks. What is this? Thermal fuse? Oh. Okay. I don't know, maybe there's a way to, what can I do with this? I don't know, I'll have to think about it. Well, okay. I don't know, I can't really work this out in my head, but since this has this common leg, I mean, if I wire it up as an autoformer, I mean, is it gonna step up the entire 50 volt rail to 100 volts every time this thing kicks in? I mean, it is isolated by the motor relay, but I mean, maybe the motor will act act as an effective isolating component. Or at worst case, the rail will only be boosted every time the relay kicks in, and the motor runs for, every time the pins are reset for a couple of seconds. And so, I'll just hook it up and see what happens. Okay, this thing is effectively wired in. So, that's way better than it was. That looks like it's going super fast though. I think it's doing exactly what I thought it was, which is moving the voltage up of the entire rail. So, step in the right direction, though. It seems a little loose or something. Let's see what's happening with the voltage. Well, just for laughs, let's see what happens here. Okay. Row. Quiet, you. It's in game over. Okay, it's not leaving game over. It reminds me of one of those like old-timey exercise machines. Okay, so what's happening is when the motor solenoid kicks in, that side just goes to town, and then this side, it lags a little bit, but what's happening is that it's pulling so much torque that it overwhelms the motor, either because of the, it's still at 80, like I said, 80 something volts, it's still low. But what's happening is it just gets to a point where it can't carry the load, and then it just reverses. So the motor it'll start spinning one direction as soon as it's engaged, it gets overloaded, then it just starts spinning the other direction and goes back, and then it goes back and forth, and oscillates. So what does that mean? I don't know. I think it would be best to try to operate this entire reset mechanism with this side on 120 volts, even if I have to just wire it in around all of this and see what happens. And if that works, I mean, that would means that this is technically a failure. It just doesn't put out enough steam. But most likely what'll need to be done is an extra relay added in here, and then a wire run from the back power distribution block or something with 120 volts AC, just for that. So it might work. If I'm correct, and we have one of these switches here, one for each motor. If that is true, that is not true. Okay, so we have one switch that controls both motors. Suck. Okay. Okay, have to wire in an extra solenoid for sure. I don't know, maybe we should just can this and wire this up to one of those baby bouncer things with swingamajigs. Okay, well, part 2 is coming later, and I'll have to figure out something else to try to do to this machine in the meantime. But meanwhile, if anybody has a lead on one of these gearboxes with the correct motor, I sure would like hearing about it. And thank you, Fart Fan.